Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to be talking about Kowloon 12 x Kagaribi, which was a P tier event that took place this weekend, the first major of the season, and we kicked it off with a bang. For our top 16 finishers, you got Alice, Now, Taikei, and Snow in 13th. Aka, Shutone, Sin, and Masa in 9th. In 7th place, you're going to have RYUOH and ASIMO. 5th place is ZACKRAY and DORAMIGI. 4th place was Level 1. 3rd place was Fargo. 2nd place was ACOLA. And winning the entire thing was MIYA. So let's start with our top 8 seeds that did not get in the top 8. And the first one is going to be T. He ends up losing really early on to Moyashi, the Steve player. And he does have a pretty decent losers run, most notably getting wins over Subo, Chicken, and Harrison. But he ends up losing to the Nest player, Sumaho, for 33rd. So definitely not an amazing start to the season. And the first half of T's year was honestly pretty good. He just didn't go to a ton of events, which is honestly the main issue with his ranking, because aside from that, his only bad event was the 17th at Delta. So pretty unfortunate to start off the season like that, but it is what it is. Speaking of unfortunate, hurt another subpar performance in a row, but this one isn't as bad. He ends up getting wins on Yoda Cage and YN before losing to the Alice Kazuya in the winner's side, beats Rimu, and then ends up losing to Leah for 25th. And we'll talk about Leah's run in a little bit because it is very good. But this is definitely not the start of the season that you were looking for if you were her. I mean, none of these players were looking for this start. And it's really going to hurt her chance of being best in the world, because I actually think he had a pretty realistic chance of taking that title of best in the world. But with this 25th out the gate, especially considering that Spargo, ACOLA, and MIYA all got top 3, and he's guaranteed going to be fighting at least, probably all 3 of those players for number 1. It's just not a great start to the season, unfortunately for her. You're also going to have Raru finishing in 25th. He ends up losing to Tora in the winner's side. Manages to get a nice win on Passeriman before falling to RYUOH in a game 5. And this is actually going to be Raru's second worst placement of the entire year. The only other time he got worse than this was 33rd at Umebora. And aside from that, every other event that this player has been to has pretty much been a top 8. He also has 9th at Kagaribi and 17th at Sumobato SP48. But literally everything else is top 8ing at a major level, which is so insane to do with Luigi. So yeah, he ends up missing the top 8 this time around, gets a lower placement. But do you know what? I can definitely cut him some slack, because the consistency he has with that character is absolutely unreal. And our final top 8 seed that didn't quite get in there is going to be Shutone, but he still has a really nice run, getting 9th place. He ends up losing to Sigma, or rather getting wins on Sigma and Jogabu in the winner's side, before losing to Sin in a game 5 set, which absolutely should not have happened. Again, we'll talk about that when we talk about that. Gets wins on Ferrari Airman and Taikei in the loser side before falling to ZACKRAY for that top 8 qualifier. And getting ZACKRAY as a top 8 qualifier at a Kagaribi tournament is definitely a little bit unlucky, but a 9th place to start off the season isn't too shabby. And while these next players weren't top 8 seeds, I still do want to mention them because I think they were top 8 caliber and they did fall short. The first one is going to be Kameme. Now, I'm willing to give him a pretty big break, just considering that, he has a child and he's pretty much retired from this game. But seeing him bow out at 65th was definitely surprising. He ends up losing to Sin in the winner's side and right away loses to Akio in the loser's side. So not an amazing tournament from Kameme, but again, this guy is pretty much retired and unfortunately took Sora into retirement with him, at least effectively. The character's results have been nowhere near as good since Kameme left, and while there is a chance that I think Sora could still see some good results before Smash Ultimate eventually bites the dust, players like RYUOH are very good. I actually think if Ferks gets the chance to travel more, then he could do some stuff with the Sora, but as it stands right now, this seems like a character with a lot of potential that is likely going to go to waste, and the best rep of the character seems like he is on his way out of the competitive scene. But do you know what? He had a pretty good run, and of course he can still go to more events and absolutely pop off. He just didn't happen to do it at this one. So 65th Kameme, obviously not amazing. You're also going to have Ken finishing in 33rd. He's going to end up losing to Rarikusu. That's right, the Donkey Kong player in the winner's side of the bracket. Does get a win on Fui, but then falls to RYUOH. And both of the sets that you have Ken losing, he does end up taking them to game 5, but still ultimately falls short. And I think Ken's had a bit of a quiet 2024 season. He hasn't been to a ton of stuff, but he does have some really solid results. 9th at Genesis, 9th at Delta, 7th at Kagaribi. He absolutely could have been a top 10 player going into this season, and he still could be. Now it's going to be a lot more difficult, of course, with that 33rd, but nothing is impossible. Well, something might be impossible, though, because the final player that I have to talk about for underperformances is unfortunately going to be Tama P. And he ends up getting 129th at this event, losing to KNB in the winner's side and Kurofun in the loser's side. So, very unfortunate placement for Tama P. But honestly, he's probably thanking his lucky stars that this wasn't last season, because Tama P has a very good chance of being ranked top 10 in the world for last season. And while I think it's going to be extremely difficult for him to do that twice in a row with this 129th, at least it didn't affect his previous good placements, you know? And we only had one true low-tier run at this event, and that's going to be coming from RYUOH. And they are a Kirby player that ended up getting 25th with wins on Sayadu in the winner's side. Ends up losing to Gak, does manage to take a game, beats Ike in a Game 5 set, and then has the misfortune of running into Akio. And I'm no Kirby expert, but I'm pretty sure that Kirby Shulk is not a fun matchup for the character. So 25th at a super major, no, a premier tournament in 2024 with solo Kirby is honestly pretty incredible. And the other low tier run that I want to mention in this segment is going to be Sin, or I'm actually sure if that's how you pronounce that, it might be Sign as well, but they end up getting 9th place with solo Ice Climbers. And maybe you don't want to consider Ice Climbers a low tier character, and I do think that's pretty fair. The character is at least decent, but to get a 9th place with Ice Climbers is truly exceptional. And when you look at the wins as well, it's going to be hard to disagree. He ends up getting wins on Kameme, Karage, and Shutone in a Game 5 set. He beats Shutone in Pyra Mithra versus Ice Climbers, which is one of the most unwinnable matchups in the entire game. Pyra side B literally invalidates Ice Climbers as a character, and Shutone was the one who kind of like invented that as a strategy, so you know he knows the matchup, but Sin was just playing out of his mind. His spacing around side B was so good. He was just very, very aware of what Shutone's options were and when he's actually in danger, and he just played exceptional. Now, to get into top 8, he ends up losing to level 1 in a Game 5 that he absolutely could have won, and then ASIMO in a Game 4. But 9th place at a major with solo Ice Climbers is truly remarkable. We haven't seen a run this good from a player not named Big D in honestly quite some time, so huge props to Sin for winning this one, especially for beating Shutone. Like, I have no idea how he did that. Editing Fruit Block, I forgot to mention that Toguri also ended up getting 17th place at this event with, once again, solo Banjo, as well as picking up a win on 33 parent blocks. I mean, he does it so often now that I feel like it's not even special anymore, but Banjo getting top 32 at a major event like this, it's ridiculous. It genuinely is. And of the losers runs that didn't get into the top 8, the best ones had to come from Akio and Leah. Both players ended up getting 17th place, as well as winning 6 sets in a row. You have Akio losing to Rimu, the Min player, in the winner's side, but he manages to get wins on Kurofun, Kameme, Marcos, Tsubaki, and Kono before losing to Snow. And honestly, huge props to Snow for winning that one, because I think Mario Shulk is miserable for Shulk. But bigger props to Akio for the amazing run that he had at this event. I think Akio is a player with a ton of potential. In just a couple months, I could see him being the best Shulk player in the world, if he already is the best Shulk player in the world. I mean, this is one of the best runs that we've seen in 2024. Now, obviously, players like Kome, Jared is King, Kanaji, they are all very good, and they probably still have that title over Akio, but I think he has a very real chance of taking it, so big ups to him for the run. And Leah as well, coming essentially out of nowhere. It's been a very long time since we've seen a guy, or this guy, have a solid run like this, and he just popped off super hard after losing fairly early on to Ike. He gets wins on Aegis, Roki, Shinji, Shirayuki, and most notably 3-0's hurt in Greninja versus Snake, which is a pretty difficult matchup for Greninja, and also Hurt used to have a secondary Greninja, so he's clearly very good at the matchup. At least he should be good at the matchup, know the intricacies of the character, but despite that, Leah managed to overcome, and he does lose his next round right after that to Taikei, but still amazing run from Leah, as I already mentioned, the best that we've seen from him in quite some time. And honestly, I hope we get to see more runs like this, because straight up, I just like watching Greninja. And we're going to be moving on to the top 8, but there is one run that really quickly I do want to mention, and that is going to be Alice getting 13th place, and he ends up getting wins on both Hurt and Matsunabe. That Hurt win being especially impressive, but it wasn't Roy that got home those wins, it was actually Kazuya. And Alice has had a Kazuya for quite some time. This isn't a new thing by any means, but the fact that he's able to take out players of Hurt's caliber, of Matsunabe's caliber with it, is honestly super promising. Maybe something that we'll see more from Alice in the future. Kazuya isn't a character that's been having a ton of success in 2024. This is honestly probably the best non-Riddles run a Kazuya player has had this year. Actually, scratch that, because Rimu popped off super hard and got second place. But you know what I'm saying. Kazuya hasn't been doing super well this year, and this is an amazing run from Alice. 13th place at a P tier is incredible, so big props to him for that. And we are going to be moving on to the top 8. Now, this tournament is massive. I obviously couldn't talk about every single player, so if there's a run that I left out and you're curious about how that player did, just leave a comment down below, and I'll be sure to tell you how it was. But let's get right into it. So let's get right into this top 8, starting off with our 7th place finishers of RYUOH and ASIMO. Starting off with ASIMO, he's going to pick up wins on Latte, Nize Mamo, and Passeriman in the winner's side before he ends up losing to ZACKRAY, where then he beats Goryoka, Now, and Sin to get into that top 8 in the loser's side, where then he ends up losing to Spargo. So I honestly don't have a ton to say about this run from ASIMO. He pretty much lost to every player that he was supposed to lose to and beat every player that he was supposed to beat. But this is a really good start to the season for him. I do think that ASIMO has what it takes to be a top 10 player in the world. All he really needs is those super high peaks, because the consistency on this guy it's simply unreal, and he's keeping up that trend going into the second half of the year. And RYUOH had the run of the tournament, at least in my opinion. He picks up a win on Yuramoto before losing to ZACKRAY, and then he pops off so unbelievably hard, beating Ken, Reru, Totoguri, Snow, and Aka, before losing to ZACKRAY once again in that loser side top 8. Though he does manage to take a game in the second set, so you give RYUOH 2 more sets, I feel like he would get that dub over ZACKRAY. He was phenomenal at this tournament. I do think that RYUOH has been the best Diddy Kong in Japan for a little bit now, but this definitely cements it. One of, if not his best runs to date. Incredible top 8 at a P tier. He should be very, very happy with that. And honestly, the way that he was playing, I kind of expect to see more of them. On to our 5th place finishers, who were DORAMIGI and ZACKRAY. Starting off with DORAMIGI, he's going to pick up wins on Ferrera, sorry if I'm butchering that, Spargo, and Aka to get that top 8 through the winner's side. But then he has the misfortune of running into ACOLA, who definitely has his number, and also ends up losing that run back to Spargo for 5th place. But definitely an amazing run from DORAMIGI. Getting that Spargo win has got to feel incredible. Even if you do end up losing the run back, to be able to beat a player of Spargo's caliber is just very telling of how good DORAMIGI is as a player. This is someone that is potentially already a top 10 player in the world, almost guaranteed to be top 15 for the first half of the year. And I think going into the second half of the year, he could absolutely be like a guarantee for top 10, potentially even a top 5 player. His edge guarding is just like the best in the entire world. And of course, a lot of that is going to be Min Min, but I've seen nobody use Min Min like this guy does. It is genuinely incredible, and he's got another really nice run under his belt to prove it. But speaking of incredible, ZACKRAY, this guy does not miss at these Kagaribi events. He ends up picking up wins on Tora, the Ike player, RYUOH, and ASIMO to get to that top 8 qualifier, where he does end up losing to ACOLA. ACOLA's definitely got ZACKRAY's number. He hasn't been able to pick up a set on him yet. He does take a game this time around. It's going to be pretty much all pit, and by pretty much I mean literally all pit this tournament, except in the final set. I'll get to that in just a second. But first things first, to get into that top 8, he has to play Shuton, which is like a classic in Japan. Honestly, just a classic of Smash. They played each other so many times, and like it does a majority of the times, it goes into ZACKRAY's favor. Once in the top 8, he eliminates RYUOH once again, though this time he does do it with a Dark Pit, so using a bit of Dark Pit and Normal Pit throughout this tournament. I think he just used Dark Pit actually against Shuton and RYUOH, as well as level 1, which was his next set, where he does end up losing that one. It goes to game 5, but level 1 just barely clutches it out. Honestly, a banger. And it's always nice to see ZACKRAY playing well, but it's especially kind of just funny straight up, but he does it every single Kagaribi. This guy has not missed since like, I think like Kagaribi like 7 or something, which he won with Sora. It is literally unbelievable what ZACKRAY has been doing. The consistency that he has is unreal, and he's doing it with Pit. In 4th place, you're going to have level 1, 3rd place, Spargo, starting off with level 1, who has been just killing it, by the way. I mean, he has been incredible. He ends up picking up wins on Higachan, Fui, Reirakusu, Taikei, and Sin to top 8 this major through the winner's side. In the winner's side, he ends up running into MIYA, loses that one, though he does manage to take a game, beats ZACKRAY in a game 5, and ultimately loses to Spargo for 4th place. But this is such an incredible run from level 1. This is one of the best runs that we have ever seen from a Link player in this game, period. Maybe the best one we've ever seen from a Link player in this game. The only other one I can really think of is T at Congo Saga. This is just an incredible performance from level 1. He has been pushing this character incredibly far. Now, I still don't think Toon Link is the best Link. I still think that it's Young Link, but undeniably this character has the best result of the Links, and that's pretty much solely to level 1, so big props to him for that one. In 3rd place, you're going to have Spargo, the big invader of the event. And while he wasn't able to win this one, I do think that he should be fairly happy with it. He picks up a win on Suma, but the next player that ended up beating T before falling to DORAMIGI in the winner's side, where then he beat Shirome, who almost reversed 3-0'd him with Toon Link as well, by the way, so shouts to Shirome for that one. Alice and Masa to get into that top 8. Once in the top 8, he beats ASIMO, beats DORAMIGI in the run back, and also gets his run back on level 1 from Delta 8. You could tell that Spargo wanted that revenge because he was playing exceptionally well in that set. And this isn't probably the placement that Spargo was looking for in 3rd place, especially considering who he loses to, and we'll get to that in just a second. But it's still a very solid run. I mean, top 3 at a P-tier event is incredible, and especially considering the last time he was in Japan, things didn't go so well. I think Spargo, all things considered, should be happy with this trip. It's a pretty good start to the season, and I think it's only going to go up from here. And our grand finalists are going to be none other than the top 2 seeds at the event, ACOLA in 2nd and MIYA in 1st. It really is fitting that the top 3 of this event is Spargo, ACOLA, MIYA, but the order of that is probably a little bit surprising to people, and the outcome is definitely going to be surprising to people if they don't know, of course. Our 2nd place finisher, ACOLA, picks up wins on RYUOH, Tsubaki, Gakt, and ZACKRAY to get that top 8 through the winner's side. Once in the top 8, he manages to beat DORAMIGI 3-0, ends up losing to MIYA 3-1, but gets the most impressive upset of the tournament in beating Spargo. Not an upset by seeding. Spargo was, I think, like the 6th seed at this event, but ACOLA has not beaten Spargo since their first encounter at LSI all that time ago. Cloud is a very difficult matchup for Steve, and I also think it's just a difficult matchup for ACOLA personally as well, but he's put a lot of time into it, not on Steve, but on Pyra Mithra, rather. At the start of the year, when I was talking about the best players in the world, I said if ACOLA was going to continue being the best player in the world, it would be because the Aegis is putting in that extra credit versus players like Spargo, versus players like Sonics. In those really bad matchups, you have something in your pocket that is good enough to take out against the best of the best, and I can confidently say that the Aegis is ready against the best of the best. I mean, it definitely helps that I have, evidence on my side that it's ready, but the Aegis looked incredible from ACOLA. There definitely were moments where you could tell that he was nervous, but hell, I would be nervous too if I was about to beat Spargo for the first time in years with my secondary, and he pulled it off. That's got to be feeling amazing for ACOLA. 3-0s MIYA in the reset as well, but ultimately loses to him in a game 5. So while MIYA takes the tournament, ACOLA takes that win over Spargo, and honestly, I don't know which feels better. But let's actually talk about our big winner. The first premier tournament of the season is going to be going to none other than MIYA, and this is such an impressive placement from him, and an important one at that. And obviously, it's an important placement. You won a P-tier event. It's going to matter a lot, but MIYA's last season was riddled with inconsistencies, and he's always had inconsistencies in his career, and they've been progressively getting better and better. Like this season, his worst placement is a 17th place at Genesis, as well as 13th places at Sumobato SP49, and a 9th place at Sumobato SP47. And while that's definitely not the end of the world for most players, MIYA is not most players. He is in contention for being the best in the entire world, and those events you really cannot just let happen. So it's got to feel so good for MIYA to start off the season right, kick it off with a bang, get out of that little slump that you were in, and boy did he get out of that slump. He's able to pick up wins on Snow and Masa to get into that top 8 through the winner's side. Once in the top 8, he beats level 1 and ACOLA to get into that grand finals, loses the first set 3-0, and I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty sure ACOLA was going to win the tournament at that point. He just had so much momentum behind him, but MIYA calms himself down, and he manages to clutch it out. Game 5 in the grand finals. Of course, it went Game 5, MIYA ACOLA. I mean, that's a set that is actually a classic at this point for at least modern Smash Ultimate, and it goes MIYA's favor this time around. As I already said, amazing start to the season. Literally could not be better. And with that, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. The support has been absolutely unreal as of late. If there's anyone I left out, got wrong, or if you just want to say hi, leave a comment down below. Be sure to sub while you're down there, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye!